What is going on, guys? DragonTamerBlayde here, back from Elder Scrolls Legends, and today we're going to be taking that budget Guildsworn deck we played yesterday, and we're going to be making some tweaks to it to, make it a little less budget as you are able to play with it and add gold, just like we did with the Dominion deck. So the easiest change that we're going to make to this one, and I suggested this last time, after you can save up 500 gold by your 3-win rewards and daily quests, you should purchase Ankano's Cunning. It is a Heroes of Skyrim themed deck. It is a mage deck. I said assassin last time, I was wrong. It is a mage deck, and you'll get 2 key cards for that list. So, just like last time, we're going to add the 1 Cloudrush Illusionist, and we are going to add Ankano, because that's 2 solid upgrades to this deck that you can get just for 500 gold, and then you can either fill out your collection with the rest of the list, or turn the rest of the list into soul gems if you've already had a lot of the cards in that list besides the epics and legendary. So next up, we're going to go ahead and take a look at all of the epics and legendaries that you could potentially craft for these sets, and we'll talk about which ones fit, which ones don't fit. So going through this list here, I know that our action count is relatively high with 15. However, Withered Hand Cultist would be a solid addition to the deck if you pulled or crafted these. If you are a player that likes to play aggressive decks, crafting Withered Hand Cultist is something you should do sooner rather than later, just because it shuts down most decks that could try and do well against your aggro deck. Earthbone Spinner is another decent option, mostly just because Silence helps you get past guards. It's not the best statted card, but, like I said, the Silence can come in handy. Ogrim's not the best bet, but I'll put it this way. Don't craft Ogrim, but if you have a very budget collection and you pull Lumbering Ogrim, definitely put him in this deck because 7-4 worth of stats for 4 is pretty darn solid. Again, like I said, it's one of those cards that I would not craft for this list, but it is a higher quality card that you could put in if you pull it. Out of these lists as well, you could try Markarth's Bannerman. It probably is going to wind up too slow a lot of the time, but it might wind up being okay to put in here over maybe Guildsworn Cavalier, maybe one of these other cards. You could try Markarth's Bannerman if you pull them. For the sake of this video, we're not going to quote-unquote craft Markarth's Bannerman for this list, though. Belligerent Giant, again, good card, just a tad too slow for the strategy that we're going for. None of these blue cards are really going to fit in that well with an aggro strategy, and honestly, none of these cards are going to be that great either. You can make the argument for Pit Line, especially since we're playing Scouting Patrol and we have some 1-drops and 2-drops. Probably a fine card to try and include. You have enough cards that you should be able to turn on Pit Line. But again, we're going to go ahead and not quote-unquote craft Pit Line for the purposes of this video. Other than that, what do we have in here? Okay, so these are some cards that would definitely come in handy. Rifthane would be amazing in this deck. It's always going to be around a 3-cost stat line for 2, and it's both good in an aggressive matchup, or if you're behind, it can be a little guard for you. So Rifthane is amazing. Definitely one of those cards that I would say put on your to-craft list, especially if you like to play more aggressive decks. I don't know off the top of my head if you get one of these decks in one of your things that you play through the story mode for. But let's say in a hypothetical world, we're going to add probably both of one of these as cards that we crafted over time. Sentinel Battle Mace, just an amazing card for reach, helps with trades if you need it. It's just a really, really good card. So we're going to say, hypothetically, we cut 1 Covenant Plate, and we cut, let's say, what do we cut here? Let's say we cut 1 Firebolt. And we're going to add 1 Rifthane and 1 Sentinel Battle Mace in a hypothetical world where we crafted one of each of those cards. And no other epics really apply here. Legendary-wise, we're not going to add any legendaries, because legendaries obviously are very expensive and not budget at all. Relentless Raiders could fit if you pull any of these guys. They are perfectly fine to include. You could consider running them over Quartermaster or alongside Quartermaster. I'd say alongside, because Quartermaster, you really want the dagger for the expertise synergy. Reeve 100% fits in this deck. Super, super good card. Again, a tad slow, but the amount of damage he can push can sometimes win games on his own. None of the blue cards are going to fit all that well. If you have a Daggerfall Mage, you can consider running it, but the damage output really isn't that great. But the Tome can help you cycle. So it's one of those cards where if you already have one, consider running it, but definitely don't craft it for this deck. Out of these cards, Dawnbreaker 100%. If you have one, if you pull one, consider crafting one. Don't have it on the super top of your list, but it should be near the top. It's just a really, really good card. It's reach. It can sometimes surprise kill some Dark Guardians or stuff in the early game blocking your way. Really, really good card. Hofengar Marauder is another card that if you have them, I would consider putting them in this deck. Whereas Dawnbreaker is definitely a yes to crafting, I would say Hofengar Marauder only if you play a lot of aggressive decks that run yellow, because in general he doesn't really have a lot of homes otherwise. Barak I would not run in this deck either. Tyr you could consider running. I think you can get him as a free reward in the story. So if you have Tyr from the storyline, definitely toss him in here. It's a pretty good stat line. If you hit him from a prophecy, he's just bonkers. Iron probably does not fit. However, we run enough actions that if you have her, you can consider running her just as a later game body, but doesn't really fit the aggro strategy all that well. And then nothing from the neutral list. Next up, we're going to go ahead and take a look at Alliance Wars, see if there's anything that we got added in the current expansion. None of these cards fit all that well. Guildsworn Bloodlust is a good card, but not really one for an aggro deck. Again, none of these cards really fit in an aggro strategy. Nor do any of these. Master of Incunabula is a very, very strong card, but one that you'd probably need to tweak your deck to be a little bit slower to run properly, just because copying the expertise, you want to have a couple on the board, and it just doesn't really work in an aggressive sense. So let's go ahead and take a look at the legendaries. Legendaries wise, if you have Lyris Titanborn, add her to the deck. 6 cost 5/5, while not great, her ability can, another one, even more so than Reeve, can single-handedly win you the game. And if you like to play aggressive decks, Lyris should be near the top of your list to pull or craft. Just incredible, incredible card. I almost want to add her in here as a theoretical, we crafted this, but I'm going to avoid legendaries altogether. Maybe we'll add some epics over time, but I added the 2 epics before, and we're trying to keep this a budget deck. So Lyris won't be added, but again, put her on your priority list if you like aggressive decks. Out of these, I wouldn't really run anything. We don't really have any summon abilities to copy with Abner Tharn. And out of these, again, nothing super great. If you have Varen, you could maybe consider dropping a card for him. But if your opponent's breaking your runes, you really kind of want the cards from it to continue to push damage. He is nice because he kind of has a 5 drops worth of stats for 4. But I don't know. I probably wouldn't run him. Vanis, way too slow for an aggro deck. And same with the neutral cards. Next up, we'll go ahead and take a look at Houses of Morrowind. So epic here. Halalu Sharpshooter, perfectly fine to include. Potentially even better than Earthbone Spinner in a lot of cases. Just a solid card to get past guard. Your deck is relatively cheap, so you can very easily play multiple cards to activate the plot effect. Halalu Sharpshooter is just a really good card. And False Incarnate is something that you could consider running if you have one as well. Again, it's one of those ones that I would not craft, but if you happen to have 1 or 2 False Incarnates, you could very easily slide it into the 4-cost slot. And health gain is actually somewhat common in the game at the moment with market decks and like health gain Dominion decks, stuff like that. So False Incarnate could consider being run if you have them. Out of these cards, I wouldn't really run any of these either, and none of the yellow cards either. So let's go ahead and take a look at the legendaries. Actually, epic-wise, if you have a Mudcrab Merchant, you can consider running that. Because, again, since the deck has a lot of cheap cards, you could have a tendency to run out of cards pretty quickly. Mudcrab Merchant gets a body on the board that works great with Scimitar or Ebon Thread Cloak on turn 2, but also gives you extra cards, so Mudcrab Merchant's one to consider. Legendary-wise, wouldn't really run any of these. You could maybe consider a 1-of Sharp-Eyed Ashcan if you find yourself running out of cards often, but I think we have enough draw in the deck to where you probably shouldn't run into that super often, but maybe a 1-of Sharp-Eyed Ashcan if you have pulled him could be fine. Again, don't craft that guy though. Enamor's Keeper, if you pulled one, this is another don't craft, but if you pull him, I would consider maybe running 1 or 2, just because the Heirloom Greatsword in the late game could be really good, and if you're top decking, being able to play him as a 7 cost 9/3, I think is what you get. It's not too bad, not great, but like I said, the Greatsword helps you push pressure all game. And out of the 5 costs, I wouldn't really run any of those either. So let's take a look at Skyrim. for the last step of our journey. Skyrim strength cards, would not run any of these. Would not run any of these either. Maybe consider running Thief of Dreams, but just really not that great for 5 cost. And getting one of your opponent's cards isn't great unless you're in an aggro mirror. And I wouldn't run any of the willpower cards either. So let's take a look at the legendary cards that we could include in the deck. Don't love any of these. Any of these strength legendaries are not perfect. Nor these, and nor these either. I wouldn't really run any of these legendaries in this deck. So if I had to... Well, we already talked about some of the epics and legendaries that we would include. There's a fair amount of them you could include. 3 of these would be nice. 3 of these would be nice. Potentially some of these. Lyris Titanborn, like I mentioned before. Reeve, if you have Reeve. Tyr. Potentially Pit Lion could fit in the deck as well. So there's a lot of other options that you could put in there. But we're going to stick with it how it was, with just the Cloudrest Illusionist that we quote-unquote bought from Ancano's Cunning. We'll stick with Ancano. And then we didn't do this last time, but we're going to pick 2 epics that you can potentially craft, because getting 800 soul gems isn't super tough, especially if you grind against the computer. So we added Rift Thane and Sentinel's Battle Mace. So now we need to cut 2 cards to get us down to 50, actually, or 75, I should say. And to make room for these cards, we'll go ahead and cut 1 Guildsworn Cavalier, and what else do we cut? 1 Renowned Instructor? Yeah. And we'll leave the deck like that. Back down to 75 we go, and let's hop in and get a game and see how things go. Take a sip of water, because that was a lot of talking. I just talked for 12 minutes before we even played a game. You guys probably hate me. Or maybe you love me. I don't know. Depends on what you think of hearing my thought process. I know the craft, don't craft breakdown is probably pretty similar for this deck as it was for the Dominion deck. But that's mostly because a lot of the cards that were currently being run in mid-range and aggressive decks kind of overlap epic-wise. So that's just kind of how it is. Funny as Lasergician playing Halalu. I'm going to assume that he's playing Aggro Halalu, trying to ladder. So we have a very tough time ahead of us.
I'm ready for anything.
Hail, friend.
Hello, hello.
Greetings,
Very
citizen.
good guy, by the way. If you don't know Lasergician, you should go ahead and check out his channel. We'll just drop that to draw a card.
Ever ready.
We could just drop Renowned Instructor next turn.
I'm ready for anything.
What's going on?
Have business with House Halalu.
Forked Bolt.
You can't beat me.
Alright, so he got off to a pretty aggressive start.
Training is over. It's time to act.
We'll get those out, because next turn we can Renowned Instructor and Firebolt and just continue clearing things out. I know we're an aggro deck, and that's why I wanted to get some stuff into this lane, but at the same time, I do want to clear out what he's doing here. Just because he's 1 turn away from Divine Fervor, and I'm not really about that life.
You can't
My
beat me.
business is none of theirs.
You can't beat me. I'll whip them into shape.
That's so
If you
sweet.
want to talk business, you come to the right place.
Alright, so our Guildsworn Cavalier play might have to wait a moment.
You fight like a child. Acknowledged.
Just clear that out for now. If we can hit a Lucky Prophecy, we'd
Nicely
be
done.
super excited.
My business is none of theirs.
That is a
I
Lucky
beseech
Prophecy.
the gods.
Let's take care of business, shall we?
I mean, we're going to lose a 5-2 worth of stats here, but hopefully we can just eat up damage.
You can't beat me.
We stand united.
You can't defeat me. You can't beat
Okay.
me.
I think we just go...
I'll see you dead.
I don't think I want to give him any cards right now. We're going to go Renowned Instructor
And strike. Get
into Firebolt on that because it takes 3 damage off the board.
Time to join the fight.
Next turn we have Lightning Bolt and Wardcrafter as a play. But Aggro Guildsworn, like I said, is going to be a very tough matchup.
I'll see you
My
dead.
business is
You
none
can't
of
beat me.
theirs.
Of course I'm on your side.
That's not good.
I only need one shot.
That's not good either.
Taste fetch.
Eaten.
Careful there, friend.
Getting quite low here.
Here, Autumn. Time to join the fight.
But we're getting close to stabilizing. We're just going to stabilize at too low of a health total for it to matter.
We stand united.
Yeah, definitely too bad.
I'll see you
They
dead.
missed their shot. My business is none of theirs.
Cycle. Alrighty, so we're going to take this out. We are going to take this out after we play this.
Watch yourself. Here, Autumn. Head.
And trade this in. Did I play any actions yet? I don't think so. But we have a blue and a green on the board. I think I'm just going to play Guildsworn Oathman. Get a Forked Bolt. He's going to have 2 cards to work with, but we're going to have to start going in soon.
Talking mud crab.
That's not great.
Read my lips. Mouth.
Not really rocking many guards either. We have to hope that this can hold up. I get a Serpentine Stalker, which isn't great. That's not great either. So we're pretty close to dead. And he just drew a ton of cards.
The Oriole do not waste time chatting with mortals.
Wait. Did you hear that?
Alright, we don't have any guards here. 5, 8, 11, 15. Yeah, I don't know where we're finding the rest of this damage from. And we're dead to this right now. We have no other way of dealing damage to any of this right now. That doesn't give us guard. That doesn't give us guard. Let's see what we draw first.
Take this. Acknowledged.
We have to get rid of this.
Here, watch and learn.
The fighter's
Draw another
will
card.
stands ever ready.
I kind of want to just kill that. Because if you can get by the guard, you can get by the guard no matter what. I'm going to assume that we're dead. I'm going to hold off on the good game until he kills us, though. If we don't die here, we have a chance next turn, I think. 5, 8, 11, 15. We do have a chance next turn if we don't die. But the odds of Halalu not being able to get past a guard or deal 3 damage, so incredibly low.
Me always clever. This is the secret to success.
Tawaka watches over me. Did I something?
That is intriguing. So we have 5, 7, 8, 11,
A
13.
hard-fought
I have a
victory.
chance here.
I'll send them all to oblivion.
You can't defeat me.
Sniveling coward, take this!
Here, watch and learn. Your blood will spill.
Oh my goodness, we won.
Face me, you dog.
That was a hell of a comeback by our little budget deck. That was a good game, too. Aggro Guildsworn is a good deck, and we just barely found a way. And I can't help but expect that his draw wound up really horrible at the end there. Because like I said, Halalu has so many ways to deal 3 damage, so I think Lasergician just got some really shitty luck there. But you gotta take your your good luck when you get your bad luck. It's the game. So we got very lucky there, and I'll gladly take it. But yeah, that's going to be it for now, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We did improve the deck a little bit. We didn't really get to see most of those cards, but the deck quality was higher overall, and the deck actually went 2-0 in our 2 practice games, so that's not a bad showing, I don't think. But yeah, that's going to be it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.